So, you guys have been around long enough, I would assume, to know that I don't like books. Or, at least I'm not the biggest fan of them. See? I'm finally growing into them. I know. What a shock! But the thing is, I don't think I'm into what everyone else is into. Like, people are all about fantasy and sci-fi and all that jazz. But I don't think I'm as drawn to it as nonfiction. But even nonfiction can be a bit rough to read too. If it's boring, it's really boring. I don't know. I'm curious to know what other people are into. Specifically, what you guys might be into. I know what all my other friends are into, because they all seem to be into reading. Well, except Danny. He's like me. Don't get me wrong, I read the least out of everyone, but it really takes something good to get him into a book. He's super picky about his reads, so even though he's with me on the whole not reading train, he still reads. The only people that are remotely on the same boat as me are Sadie and Casey. They don't really read that much. Actually, I take it back. Sadie is like Danny too. Anyway, I know all the types of books that my friends are into. I even went through the effort of asking them why they were all into what they were into. So, here's the list. I might throw my final opinion in at the end if y'all feel like that's the most necessary. So, without further ado, let's start with an old friend, Bryn. She's told me she's a fiction reader. Has been, forever and always. Fiction has been her escape from day one. Her social anxiety has been so bad for so long that the only escape she had for a very long time was us in books. Her love for fiction was what brought her out of all of her dark spells. Guys, I was so close to crying when she told me this. Like, I didn't realize she felt that strongly about fiction, but it honestly makes sense. Plus, the fact that Bryn always seems to be in a world of her own because of it makes me want to lean towards fiction, but there's still more. Mira is like Bryn, she loves fiction too. But it's honestly for the entertainment and escaping purposes. She's one of the most imaginative people out of my friends. The first person to ask a what-if question. She's always thinking up the questions that no one else is thinking. Fiction is something to blame for that. I'm pretty sure every story ever written asked a what-if question to get there. Honestly, I love Mira for that. So, we've got 2 points for fiction. Now, moving on to Angie. She's more into nonfiction. She's mostly into a lot of feminist reading and things about art because those are the things she's always been into. So, honestly, it suits her. She's good at finding something that others could find boring like nonfiction and knows how to dig far enough to find the entertainment in it. It's a great way to learn more about the things you're passionate about. As for Sadie, she likes nonfiction too. Her family has always been those of an intellect. Make no mistake, Sadie might be an extrovert that's into parties, but she's a smart cookie too. So, she doesn't read as much as Bryn or Mira, but when she does, she's always educating herself. That's right, she's also into nonfiction. But she's into it in a different way than Angie. Angie leans more toward nonfiction because she just likes to learn about things she likes, but she can also read fiction from time to time, aka romance. Now Sadie? Purely a nonfiction person. She's smart though, and that's one of the components to it. She's told me when she's reading, she'd rather take the time to learn something she hasn't known before in order to better herself. Honestly, I can totally stand by that. So that's another point toward nonfiction. Let's see. Moving on to my French friends. Again, basically all of them read. Alice is into fiction, of course. She just screams fiction when you meet her. Believe me on that. She's the girl who will sit by the fire with some classical music playing and just let whatever mystery or thriller she has on her shelf take her away. You really wouldn't think of it from just meeting her, but she's all about that stuff. She's a little bit of a cynic, but she's recommended some good mysteries. I'm a slight wimp when it comes to thrillers, but I can handle a thriller book. I'm just not that about creepy movies, you know? She just likes the escape, a common theme. She also likes solving those things like they were a puzzle. Also very valid. So, point for fiction. Now, for my dear Hugo, he's into both. Shocker! But he does say if he has to choose anything, he's going to go with fiction. A lot of the more philosophical books that he likes happen to be fiction too. He's always been into grand fantasies and adventures. He just likes his brain to think and question everything in a more fun way. But he does want to give points to nonfiction. That works, right? I can do that, right? Bridget is even more on the fence than Hugo. I mean, she was having a serious freakout about which one to choose. I just gave her a point on both for her brain's sake. She loves books. I mean, I thought Bren and Mira were nerds, but she's like a fairy. That's the only way I can describe Bridget. She likes to walk around her plant-filled house, sit on a funny chair, and sit with any book that she's reading in that moment. She literally reads a book in a week, and she doesn't discriminate. I'm amazed at people like her, Bren, and Mira, who literally blow through books on a regular basis. Danny gives his point to fiction, because literally nothing else can pique his interest. It has to be a very good fiction at that, too. But, if he's going to read a book, it's going to be a fiction book. There's not much to this. Honestly, I will have to agree with him on the sense that it's really hard for books to pique my interest. That's just it. I need to find good books to get myself into reading enough. Okay, from what I can tell, that is really for the most part all I've really got. So, for fiction, if I'm telling this up correctly, we have a total of 6 votes in that direction. Well, that's definitely a lot. As for nonfiction, there was a total tally there for 3.5 votes. Which, I mean, a part of me sort of expected this. Fiction is definitely something that I feel a lot of people are into. It totally makes sense. Now, you all are probably wondering how I feel about this now. So, I guess I might as well put my 2 pieces into the mix, I suppose. When I read fiction, I'm just like Danny. It has to be a good fiction in order to keep me hooked. Otherwise, what's the point? I don't escape as easy as Mira, Bryn, or even Hugo. They've definitely got the imaginations, and definitely the love for reading in that way to get there. Not to say I can't be there. I know plenty of people who have, so therefore, I haven't totally lost my hope in myself. None of you all should lose hope in yourselves either. I definitely believe anyone can learn to love reading at any point in their life. The only reason I'm not into it is simply because I just don't put in the effort to find a book that I like. I take suggestions, and I trust the suggestions I get from my friends since they are all big on books. I like the books they recommended to me if I get around to them, so there's that. Now, I think for some reason, I found picking up nonfiction a lot easier to do than anything. Honestly, it's because there's all sorts of nonfiction books about all the things I'm into. I have a ton of books on travel, on writing, and even on journals and history. I've never really admitted to this, but I do like history when it's good history. I mean, no, I'm not even gonna go there. There is totally such a thing as bad history, and there's plenty of it. Okay, that's a bit off topic, so we're not gonna continue talking about that. Anyway, if you're all dying to know where I stand in this argument, or is this really an argument? Is this even a debate? Maybe it's a bit of a healthy debate, but honestly, I'm just curious about where everyone else falls. I think I'm just stalling at this point. Okay, drumroll please. I'm gonna have to go with nonfiction on this one. Who knew, right? I'm actually making my way into the world of reading. My friends are so proud of me. Honestly, I'm proud of me. Do you know how much effort this took me? Many years of effort. I know, it's barely been a year, but what I mean is simply years of harboring my hatred of books and now trying to get over it. I'm determined, though. If I want to be a journalist, I have to be willing to love something that I've hated for so long. How am I supposed to be a good writer if I don't? Anyway, now I want to know how y'all feel about the two. Do you prefer fiction or nonfiction? You guys know where I stand, you know where my friends stand, and there will most certainly be no hard feelings in the matter. Fiction is great, so is nonfiction. And in this world, whatever floats your boat in the world of reading is not something that should be judged. Unless you're into some freaky weird stuff. So yeah, and don't forget, seriously, it's never too late to try and get into reading. I'm pretty sure it could do everyone in the world a little good to at least try and pick up more books. There are plenty of good things that can come from it. Plus, what's the worst that could happen? You could learn something. Oh, how terrible. Wow, my high school self would literally be quaking right now if she saw this.